What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. We're gonna do a Q&A. I didn't give too much time to really gather these, so I know there's probably gonna be some that I missed, but I just kind of grabbed the first day's worth of questions and we're gonna go through those. So if I missed yours, we're gonna do this again. So don't worry, okay? All right. First question here. What's your favorite N64 game? That's probably going to be either WCW NWO Revenge or Diddy Kong Racing. And I say Diddy Kong Racing because that was the first N64 game I got. I got an N64 on Christmas Eve of 1997, and I got Diddy Kong Racing with it. And I stayed up all night playing it, and I played that game. I mean, I played Diddy Kong Racing so much. It was my only game, you know, for a while. So I played it so much. I played a lot of Revenge, too. I remember in the summertime, me and my friends would just get together and play Revenge like crazy. It was ridiculous. If you were to get in the biz, what style would you practice? I always thought it would be really cool to be an announcer, like commentary team, you know? Just calling the action, getting to see it live in front of you every night. I always thought that was really cool. Who is your favorite wrestler? That's Scott Hall. All day, every day. Favorite wrestling promotion? WCW. What are your thoughts on the invasion angle in WWE? Well, it could have been a lot better. I understand that there was issues with contracts, and so they couldn't bring certain guys in. And I don't know that they really could have waited, but I guess maybe they could have waited. I think if they would have waited, we could have seen guys like Hogan and Goldberg and like a lot bigger names come in for that invasion. Otherwise, it was a little bit of a letdown. What are some of your favorite horror movies? Oh man, oh boy. My favorite horror movie of all time is Christine, and that's a Stephen King story about a car that is possessed and has special powers. And I'm a car guy, so that's probably part of it, but oh my god, that movie's awesome. 1958 Plymouth Fury. There's also a movie called The Car, which is kind of a similar type of movie, but it was made back in the 70s. It's a little cheesier than Christine, but it's a classic to me. And then if you want to go full-blown cheesy, there's Maximum Overdrive with Emilio Estevez. And that's about a bunch of trucks that come to life, and they're holding these people hostage at a little fueling station. And that's another classic. There's a scene in that movie where a soda machine comes to life and starts like shooting sodas out, and it actually kills this guy from just plummeting him in the head with sodas. And then Poltergeist would be at the top of that list as well. I love that movie, Poltergeist, the original one from the 80s. What are some of your hobbies? Well, other than gaming and YouTube, I like to drum. I'm a big car guy. I love cars. I love classic cars, American cars, muscle cars mostly. But I mean, I appreciate all kinds of cars. I just love cars. Believe it or not, you know, I kind of got this small little frame here, but I'm very religious in fitness. I like to lift weights and stuff like that. Just kind of, it's good for you physically, but for me, it's provides a lot of mental clarity, as weird as that sounds. Are you ever going to continue the wrestling pay-per-view stage design videos? Are you talking about Arena Showcase? Because if so, yes. Actually, as you're watching this, I probably either just released Arena Showcase for King of the Ring, or I'm about to release it. If you don't see it yet, stay tuned. And if it's there already, you better go watch it. Would you ever review any WCW storylines? Well, yeah, I don't see why not. It's kind of a cool idea. Thank you for that one. Have you ever played any games from the Dynasty Warriors series? I really have not. And that's one that I've heard tons of good things about throughout the years, but never played any of the games, unfortunately. What's your favorite WWE game? Well, it's actually WrestleMania 2000 is probably a close second, but I think it's going to be Here Comes the Pain. And man, that was just one of those games. I mean, people still talk about that game to this day. Will you re-review older reviews the way you did with WCW NWO Revenge? Well, I mean, that's a good idea because, you know, things do kind of change over time, and my review techniques have changed a little bit, and maybe even my opinions a little bit as I get a little older. So, yeah, I think that's not a bad idea to go back and kind of redo it. Who would you put on your Mount Rushmore of wrestling? One from ECW, WCW, WWF, and Indies. Well, I'd have to do this not based on who my favorite people are, but I would have to do this based on who I felt really did the most for those companies, I guess. So like if we're doing ECW, probably Tommy Dreamer, just based on everything he did for ECW. WWF, Hulk Hogan. And then for WCW, probably Sting, because to me, Sting was WCW. As much as I love all the guys that came in, Sting was like the homegrown guy, you know, and he did a lot for WCW. Maybe even Flair. Sting or Flair, that's a tough one. But I don't know. Sting kind of came to my head first, so I'm thinking maybe Sting. Not to take anything away from Ric Flair, obviously. I mean, one of the greatest of all time. As far as the indie scene goes, I really never got into indie wrestling, so I don't know that I could really speak on that. Best WrestleMania of all time. Now, this is a tough one because depending on when you ask me, this answer might change, for me at least. But I don't know. Right now, the way I'm feeling, I'd probably say like maybe WrestleMania 18. I know that's not everybody's favorite, but you know, that one meant a lot to me because a lot of the guys, I mean, that was kind of like the return of the NWO, you know, and that match between Hogan and The Rock, and then Scott Hall and Austin. I know it's not a super popular match, but I marked out for that match. You know, I enjoyed that pay-per-view a lot. That was, there was something about that pay-per-view and the time of when it came out and me watching wrestling, and it was like right at the end of me really being super interested in wrestling, but that was like the last pay-per-view that really hooked me. What do you think of AEW? What shows and movies do you like? Alright, well, I'd have to say AEW's got a lot of potential. I haven't watched everything. I started watching it when it first aired. They got a lot of potential, but they're going through some growing pains, as you would expect, and some of their stuff's a little weird. I don't know. I don't get some of it, you know. Like, I'm kind of halfway between new school and old school, so some of the stuff I'm like, that's pretty cool and innovative, and some of the stuff I'm like, something like that. As far as other shows and movies, I love watching NBA basketball. I'm a big Sacramento Kings fan. I love old sitcoms like Home Improvement and Seinfeld. I love crime movies and mob movies, stuff like Goodfellas and Casino, and Scarface is one of my favorite movies. Carlito's Way, Donnie Brasco, Training Day, stuff like that. Really good stuff. What are your top matches from WCW and WWE? Ooh. Well, I could probably tell you some of my faves. I don't know if I could narrow it down to my top as far as like a list, but like some of my favorites would be like Outsiders versus Harlem Heat at Halloween Havoc, Eddie versus Ray at Halloween Havoc. I think that was 97. This is the opener. DDP versus Goldberg, which again I think was Halloween Havoc 98. So now I think we've got 3 consecutive Halloween Havocs. And then that Hogan Goldberg match on Nitro that they did in the what's that dome that they've got in Atlanta? Anyway, Georgia Dome? Anyway, it was in that big facility in Nitro. It was the largest Nitro of all time. They had so many people there. and that match was just huge. That whole show was huge. If you've got the network, go back and watch that Nitro. And then as far as WWF, Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon, WrestleMania 10 ladder match. Mankind and Taker, Hell in a Cell, classic. Going back to WrestleMania 18, Hogan versus The Rock. Austin versus McMahon at St. Valentine's Day Massacre. I know it's not a hugely popular one, but that was the debut of Big Show, which was really, really, really cool for me, being a big WCW fan and seeing him come over, because I was just starting to watch a lot of WWF at that time, and it was a cool night. Yeah, so those are some of my favorites. Thoughts on WrestleMania 36? Have you ever attended a WrestleMania? I think it was WrestleMania 21 was down in LA, I think, and I was close to getting tickets to that, but it didn't happen. As far as WrestleMania 36, it was weird, but I did like the Boneyard match and whatever the hell that was with John Cena and Bray Wyatt. Have you been watching WWE and or AEW? What do you think about the events having no fans? I haven't really been watching. It's kind of depressing to me because it's kind of just a constant reminder of everything that's going on right now. So I haven't really been watching, and the little bit that I did see was kind of rough, kind of hard to watch. It felt so different. Top 10 favorite Gimmick matches. I think my favorite to this day is probably still the Royal Rumble. I love that event. There's just something about that. I can still watch the Royal Rumble every year and be glued to that event from the first entry to the last. The 60-man 3-ring Battle Royal from WCW was also really cool, even though it was like chaotic and hard to keep up with the action. Top 5 game franchises you love. Alright, in no particular order, and I'll exclude wrestling here because that would probably take up all 5. The Cruisin' series is on there for sure for me. I love those games. Twisted Metal, absolutely, without a doubt. Fantastic. Probably my favorite PlayStation franchise of all time. The Street Fighter series, the Fatal Fury series, and Grand Theft Auto. Just off of sheer amount of time that I've put into those games. Favorite WCW pay-per-view you ever watched? Damn, that's tough. Maybe Halloween Havoc 1996? That's just a really, really cool time. NWO was super fresh. You had the match with Outsiders versus Harlem Heat. Hogan versus Savage. Syxx versus Jericho, I think, was on that one. That was a good pay-per-view. I've always just been a big fan of Halloween Havoc and Bash at the Beach. I don't know. I mean, they could even put on a bad card, and there's just something about the presence of those two pay-per-views. I'll watch them. I'll rewatch any of them any day of the week. Do you still watch WWE regularly? I do not. I don't follow the product much anymore at all. I will kind of follow the news and stuff like that to see what's happening there, but I don't really watch the TV. Favorite soundtrack from any game? Oh my god, that's such a good question. I'll probably break it down to a few categories. So like favorite wrestling game would be WCW versus NWO World Tour. Racing games, Wave Race 64. Hands down. Cannot compete with it. Fighting game, Super Street Fighter 2. Yeah. There's a lot of good fighting game soundtracks out there, but I'll go with Super Street Fighter 2. Got to be the Super though, because I love the additional 4 players themes. All of those were just spot on. Oh, and you can't forget Twisted Metal 2. That is, man, I will sometimes be at work with my earbuds in, and I'll just put on the Twisted Metal 2 soundtrack, and that is one I could listen to from front to back. I just think it's incredible, and it brings back so many memories. Like, it's crazy. Do you listen to any wrestling podcasts like Eric Bischoff or Bruce Pritchard? Yeah, I actually listen to all of the Conrad Thompson podcasts. The Eric Bischoff, Bruce Pritchard, the Tony Schiavone one's a little it's a little all over the place, but I still listen to it. I like the ones with the information the most. The one he's got with JR now is great, and the one with Arn Anderson is great. They're very informative, and they dive deep into the questions, and the Eric Bischoff one's my favorite. Eric Bischoff gets a lot of hate and a lot of heat. I have so much respect for Eric Bischoff. I don't care what anybody says about Eric Bischoff. I could listen to him talk about old WCW stuff all day. Oh, and the Jim Cornette podcasts, the Drive-Thru and the Cornette Experience. That dude is just nuts, and it's super entertaining. Have you played any fan-made mods of classic wrestling games? I have not, and I think the main reason, I think all of that stuff is like on a computer, like a PC or something. I've always been a console gamer because I didn't have to know like specifications, or I don't have to worry about compatibility. I just put it in and it works, you know. So anything with a computer, yeah, I don't know. But if they've got something down in cartridge format or something like that I could play, that'd be cool. I'd like to check that out. I've heard so many good things about, is it Feel the Bang? It's basically the WWF No Mercy game engine with WCW roster and arenas. It looks so cool, man. It looks really incredible. If they ever get that on like an actual N64 cartridge, I'll buy it. Who is your favorite wrestling legend? Well, again, going back to the first question, it's going to be Scott Hall. He's been my favorite wrestler since I was a little kid. Hey, yo. Anyway, that's the last question that I have here. And thank you guys for supplying some good questions for me. Thank you guys for watching the channel. And thank you guys for welcoming me back and still being here after all these years. Anyway, thanks for watching. We got a lot of good stuff coming. A lot of good stuff on the way. It's good stuff. You'll love it. We'll see you next time.